Oh, it was Thursday, right? I missed that one. But there's one more Monday.
Alrighty. All right, so I'm recording now. So now that you have those files, one of those is going to be called Inkscape template.svg. So I saw that both y'all, when you opened your Inkscape, it gave you the default file or art area to work in. That's fine, but it requires you to do some setup. So in order to skip all that, I've done the setup for you. So if you open up the Inkscape template, I have it set to inches instead of pixels because pixels is really hard to work with. Inches is very easy. I understand what an inch is. I've also set it to standard US letter paper size. And I've set the background to a dark color, so it's easy to work with. There's not really going to be anything that's this dark green that you'll be working with. Nothing will be vanishing into your background. The default is like a pure white background. If you put in anything white in there, it is lost. You cannot find it. It's very difficult. Similarly, the page space is not pure white. It's slightly off-white. So if we are making something pure white, we'll be able to see it on our page workspace. So let me look at yours. Okay, so mine is Mac. And so Mac, anytime there's a toolbar, it puts it up here into this universal toolbar, which is kind of annoying sometimes. You guys have the actual toolbar here. So you have file, edit, view, path text, object, filter. All of that is on your actual toolbar inside the window. Mine is up here in this universal toolbar. That's really the only difference between our programs. So if you see me going up here into this universal toolbar, that just means that you need to go to your toolbar that's in your own window. Now, to answer your question, the line tool is this little crayon on the left side here. And that allows you to draw any line. And that is the pencil, so you can like make it as squiggly as you want, and it will draw it. Don't worry about this flip side. It's going to be very similar to Ray's class, Ray's CAD class. I believe, yeah, and this pen right here is essentially your polyline. The little antique pen symbol next to the crayon. That's basically your polyline. Now, why my shapes look like this is because I have fill turned on. But you don't need it to be like that. So first thing we're going to do before we get into anything is we're going to turn on a few windows. You have already got a nice window turned on, fill and stroke. We're going to turn that one on also. So we're going to go up to Object and click Fill and Stroke. That should open up the window on the right for you. So what this means is, let me get my polyline back out here again, and I'm just going to draw a shape. And it's going to fill in for me automatically. Under the Fill tab and our Fill and Stroke, we can see this is where that's being controlled. Let's say I don't want it to be filled in. Let's say I want it to be transparent here. I'm going to go down to this bottom, this checkerboard, and I'm going to turn that to 0. That is your transparency. If you want something to be transparent, you would set this to about 50. If you want it to be solid, you set it to 100. And you can just play with this slider and see it happen in real time. I believe there's a update preview or live preview box you can hit if that's not updating for you live. But I want this to be not a solid shape. I just want it to be the line. So I'm going to turn that to 0. In the next, we can see stroke paint. So stroke is your line that we actually drew. If I want it to be a line, it's a stroke. Because it's a stroke of a pen. You know, it's fairly self-explanatory. And if I want that to be transparent, I can set the transparency to 0, and then I don't have anything. But the shape still exists. We can see by the bounding box the shape still exists. But I'm going to let this go back to 100. But let's say that I want this to be a solid shape. I'll set this back to 100. But I don't want the line. I just want the shape. I could turn the paint of the stroke to 0 in the transparency and get rid of it that way. Or I could go to our last tab, stroke style, And at the width category, I could turn that to 0, and that will effectively remove it without making it transparent. So this is your very basic drawing tools. Do we have any questions at all? Okay, good. Now let's look a little bit more in this stroke window here. And also, so right now our width is, I have it in inches. You probably have yours in part or pixel. So you can change it however you want. Part or point is the same unit system that Word uses to determine text size. If you set it to 12-point font in Word, then it's going to be 12-point font in Inkscape if you're using the point system. Point is fine. I think it's basically 1/12 of an inch is what point is, or 1/12 of a quarter inch, something like that. I forget what it is, but you could use that. I'm using inches. So if I do 0.2 for my stroke width, my goodness, I keep zooming in on accident. 0.2. 0.2. There you go. So that's 1/5 of an inch, essentially, is what I've set this line width to. So if I were to print this off right now, I'd be able to take a ruler to my lines, and I'd be able to find that they are exactly 1/5 of an inch. So that's why I have it set to inches. That's why I have it set to letter paper, because this is going to print exactly as I have it written here. Now, I want to actually see those lines. So I'm going to go back to stroke paint, and I'm going to turn this to black. So how I can turn it to black is I have this color bar options here. And this will allow me to set any color I'd like. So I'm going to go and I'm going to set the L, or the lightness category, to 0. And that's going to turn it to black. So I want this black line. And if I go back to stroke style, so I'll be able to measure this black line will be exactly 1/5 of an inch. If I go down here to order tab, what this does is this determines whether or not I see the line first or the shape first. So how you layer your drawing tabs is very important. And this allows you to put an extra level of fine tuning on it. So if I want, let's say I want to see the shape first, then the line, I can just scroll through these options here until I find the one I like. Oh, I already had that. So now it's 1/5 of a line because I put it in front of the shape. But if I put it behind, it's 1/2 of 1/5 of a line because we're only seeing the outside portion of it. So how your line width works is it finds the center line of your line and then expands outward from there. So if I want just the outside, I click this option. If I want both sides, I click this option. We'll keep it on the outside for now. The next one we're going to want to do is our layers. So go up to your layers in the toolbar and just hit layers and objects. And that should open up another window on the right, and that'll be your layers and objects. And if you want to go back to stroke, there's the button inside your window. You can go back to stroke and you can see your layers. So let's draw another shape. Let's draw a shape inside this shape. Something like that. Well, now you can see in your layers tab, we have 2 options. Mine says path 3 and path 2. It probably says something similar to yours. We'll get into what that means exactly in a second, but we have 2 of them is the thing. And let's say I don't want to see this guy per se, but I do want him to stay in the drawing. Well, it's as simple as going over to my layers and just putting him behind the other one. So this right here is your priority of display. Anything above in the priority is shown first. Anything below is shown second. Very, very simple. If I put path 3 behind path 2, then we can't see path 3 anymore. But let's say I only want to see part of path 3, but I don't want to delete it and make it all exactly the way I want it. I can just align it in front of this one and then put it behind it. And now I only see part of it, just like that. So little tricks like this, cheating to your display menu, that all works well for when you're trying to design something big. If you only want to see part of something, if you want to have like semicircle, but you don't want to have to draw a semicircle. You can just show half of a circle. This is just a tool to use. So let's go ahead and delete all of this, and let's get into some of the realer stuff. Now that we understand the basics of how to draw. What's happening? Very nice. So you're using the pencil, looks like.
It looks terrible. It's fine. It's fine.
You can go ahead and delete all that. We're done with this section now. Abby, if you want to hop in, you just have to get a laptop and download Inkscape. All right. Or you could ask to share. Oh, you have your laptop. All right. Okay, so now let's do something a bit more tangible, something that we can go ahead and have a finished product right off the bat. So if you go back into your design class folder, you will find several logos of companies. So I've got BGE logo, Nova logo, and Ernst logo. Go ahead and open up, or just take those, and you can just drag them into your workspace. And that'll put them all in there. Or you can go to File, Open, I believe. No, File, Import. And you could do the same thing that way. Do you have Inkscape downloaded onto your laptop?
I do not.
That's okay. So whatever OS system you have, they have a application for it. So if you just Google Inkscape and go to their website, you'll be able to follow their download instructions and download it if you'd like to join in. Or you could just sit over and participate in what they're doing, whatever you want to do. If you decide to use your own laptop, you'll want to go to the Teams. In the general channel, I've got a folder that says design class, and you want to download those files because we're going to be working in those files. So I've got a template for you so you don't have to do any configuration. Everything is ready for you to go right off the bat. And we're going to be using some of the files from in there. They're just called like image. Do you have a preview? Okay, so you're going to want to open up images.png, Nova revised logo.png, and logo Ernst concrete.png. There you go. You got them. Excellent. Okay, so why we're using these is because these are three very probable logos that you will want to turn into our sponsor thank you sheet. But you'll notice they're all a little different in their form. So another thing, I just did it without thinking, but this is something you'll need to think about. So I click this Nova logo to resize it because it was too big for me to work with it. Up here in the bar, it gives you the length width of the image and its X and Y coordinates. And it has this little lock icon. When the lock icon is turned on, it will lock your ratio of width to length. So if I leave this unlocked and I try and use the scale tool, the little corner here, then look, it just gets stretched all over the place. And I lose the original dimensions of the image. I'm just going to go ahead and Control Z or undo that, or this one. I'm going to keep that locked. And just like in AutoCAD, when you're doing commands, in the bottom left, it will give you options for your command. So if I go and I want to rescale it again, in the bottom, it'll say that I can hold Control to lock the ratio. Because even with the lock here, I can go perfectly diagonal and it'll keep the ratio like I want it. But if I use the side-to-side arrow, it will still squish it. But if I want to use the side-to-side arrow and not lose that, I can hold Control and it will scale it for me without losing the ratio. So go ahead and get all the logos here into a size that works good for you because they're all different sizes. We're going to take these one at a time here. So just put them all on your workspace. And now you can see the utility of that off-white background because this Ernst logo has this white background, and we can see very clearly where it starts and stops. It's not getting lost in a pure white background. So having these visibility of colors is very important. Are you having any problems getting anything going?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
My
not
Wi-Fi
the
is
pictures
not cooperating.
Did you import them?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I've been trying to do, but it's like saying there's a
Yeah.
fail in like loading in.
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, hold up.
Did you expect it?
Let's take a pause here. Let's get this working, right?
Like it's right here.
Ben, how
Like,
come
they're-
you
they're not
need
even-
more access here? Yeah,
You know, I go to or try.
What? We could.
So I tore a ligament in my thumb. Yeah.
And then I go,
Like,
and
this
it's
is not
picture.
big deal, so.
And then I click open, and there's these like all these.
So they had
options,
to
and I try
cut
to
the
do that,
thing in my wrist. Put
And
it in
then I
my
say
thumb.
okay.
They put I cut
There's
tendon
a
in my
fail
wrist, put it
in
in my
like
thumb.
loading the archive.
And they put me in
Okay.
this cast.
Go back to your
And
file
they told me, oh yeah, we're gonna make a custom
your
cast.
file's down
Take
here.
it off and on.
and just
That's
pick-
like, you know,
pick
not
out
to be
the
too
images
intrusive. And they put me in a
that you-
fucking sling.
and just
And they're like, oh yeah, you might have to wear this for like 4 weeks or something.
okay.
Oh, nice.
Let me do it on my end too. Let me see what's
Yeah, they're being.
my
So I
Hey,
can-
like, open it.
No, I was flooding.
Like I can open it like this.
Oh.
But, like it doesn't
Trying
bring
to
it
break
to the
it.
file.
No, this is over.
Let's see. File, import.
This one works earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, and now,
Now it's not loading.
does it for us?
Okay.
How am I supposed to?
Yeah, it works. Oh, all right, so re-download it. See if that helps.
It worked
Not
earlier.
sponsor stuff.
I have one.
So read all of them and re-download them.
Yeah.
If something happens during the download from pieces.
You can almost carry the connect.
With my one hand.
Yeah.
I got this hand.
You can sue.
They're
They're
hand
hand size.
Wait, no, you can't with one hand.
They're right behind you. You can test it out.
It's easy. Look. Like that, like that. It's certain, there was certain motion.
I got a pen in hand, bro. And all that.
Yes.
Okay, there it is.
That's okay.
All right, so you just had a problem with the download. So that's a good thing we've learned to troubleshoot, because a lot of this is just learning how to download things from the internet and put them into Inkscape to work with them. That's literally all I did for these. I just Googled BGE and found a logo on Google and put that in here. Let me know when you've got everything in your workspace and scaled the way you want it. Then we'll move on.
Because some of them have some. I may have not opened the teams yet.
Definitely compile all those into something like on the team that's available publicly. And especially for people who've done material donations like Earths. But all right.
I could.
Oh, no. There we go.
Oh, wait, look at that.
I went for moral support.
After you clean the mixer, you got this. Looks like you can't help with that.
I could carry a hose. Right.
Which one is the BV one?
It's called images. I didn't rename them. This is the first oversight I've had as a Mac user. I get a live preview when I'm looking at it in the file, and that's not the case in Windows. And I know that, but I didn't think of it. So I should have renamed them all to something easy. Okay, so just get them all in your page the way you like them. It doesn't matter what size. And we're going to start with the BGE logo. So. So now, when say we want this on the back of a t-shirt,
Yeah.
we are charged per color when we're printing on t-shirts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 colors right here. That is a lot of money. We don't want that. We want all of these one color. There are two ways we can go about this. If we want these to just be white without any, huss and fuss, we can go up to filters, go down to color, and we can go to brilliance. And if we set our lightness to 10 in the brilliance window and our oversaturation, if we set everything to 10 and we hit live preview, you can see that turns the Nova logo pure white. Now that works for the Nova logo.
I just got visual one.
Oh, do you have a pure white square?
No, like turquoise scared, like black.
Like inverted.
Did you go to brilliance?
Yeah.
Did you go to brightness 10, oversaturation 10, and lightness 10?
Yeah.
Do you have the inverted thing turned on?
No.
Ooh, that's what that does.
It's
Do you have
right
live preview turned on? Do you have live preview turned
Yeah.
on? Huh. Well, I don't know what that is, but we're not doing this anyway. So you can just hit cancel and undo all of that because it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But what that does is that puts a filter over it. That does not change its actual color. So if we were to turn it all white, and then there's actually another button in here for colorize. And if we were to do that, that would put a filter of color over the image, and it would blend the two, or blend whatever color is under there. So if you wanted it to be KSU yellow, and it's a white image, it would be a very, very pale yellow if you tried to color match it to KSU yellow. If you took it and you didn't even turn it white to start with, and you just put this Nova Engineering, then the blue would be a mixture of yellow and blue, so like a greenish, and the dark gold up here would be a darker yellow, which would be weird. And it'd mess up the whole thing. We don't want that. We want a uniform color, and we want it to be right the first time. We don't want to be messing with color filters to try and match it by eye. You can do that. I've done it before, but it's not as fun. We want to just do it quick. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to take this image and we're actually going to turn it into an object. So objects are what we draw when we're doing things in Inkscape. If I take this square button here, I've just drawn an object in 2 button clicks. We have our path in here, and we have the object fill, and we have a line. And we can change all of that from our stroke and fill menu that we had earlier. So we're going to turn the Nova logo into this square, basically. So I'm just going to delete this square. Abby, are you good? Do you need any help getting started?
Oh, I think I'm actually gonna do like putting out this sort of logos and stuff. for
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so how we're going to do that is we're going to do a thing called tracing the bitmap. And what it does is the computer is going to look at what pixels are transparent, what pixels have information on them, and try to create this image in object elements. So we're going to select Nova, and we're going to go up to Path and go to Trace Bitmap. And the Trace Bitmap menu will open where our layers were a second ago. And it will give you, if you go to live updates on the bottom, it'll give you a live preview of what you're about to see. So we are going to be in brightness cutoff mode, and that's just going to be looking for the brightness of the colors in the image. There are multiple others, such as edge detection, and you can see in your live preview how that changes your final product. And some of these we don't want. Like you saw in edge detection, it created like an outline of everything. We don't really want that. We want just one thing, one and done. So we're going to go to brightness cutoff. And we're in the single scan here, and we're going to look through some of these other tabs in a second. We're going to be staying single scan for this one. Also, speckles. Speckles is the extent to which it's going to ignore small dots. And you can see that when you hover over the speckles tool in your window. It'll tell you what it does. So Nova did pretty good by us. They have a high-res image here with not a lot of pixel bleed or color burn. And that's not the case sometimes. If you get like a really small image, it's like a thumbnail used for their social media or something. It'll be a very, very small image, and there'll be a lot of pixel bleed. It's a very pixelated image, and it's not so good for this. But Nova gave us a very nice big image here. And so we don't need to worry too much about speckles. But we could try and work around pixel speckling with this slider. I've got it set to 2, but really that just means that that there's not a lot of speckles to deal with. So I've just got it set to 2. Smooth corners, this is a big one, and we're going to play around with this setting in a minute. I've got it set to 1 right now. And what that does is if you set that to 0, it is going to go pixel by pixel and give you a tracing of the pixels. So, pixels, there are little steps, a little staircase. If you have a slope, it's a staircase. And if you have 0 smoothing of corners, you're going to get that exact per pixel staircase. We have a high-res image here. That is a lot of pixels. Each time you have a staircase, that creates what's called a node. And when we made that shape earlier, every time we unclicked and moved to a new line, that created a new node. The more nodes you have in your drawing, the more information is in your drawing, the slower your document is going to load, and the bigger your file is going to be. We could have a perfect image by putting this to 0 smooth corners, but it would also mean that we would have a massive file that'd take forever to export. Every time you moved it in file, it'd take forever to load. At this point, we need to think about optimizing our system and our own lifestyle here. We need to make things nice for us. So I'm going to keep this at 1 for now, and we'll play around with it a bit more. And then we have optimize. Optimize is the reducing of nodes in your final product. So even with the smooth corners, sometimes redundant nodes will be made. There'll be a straight line with 4 or 5 nodes when it just needs to be a straight line with 2 nodes, 1 on either side. So that's what optimize does. And I'm going to start with that at 0.2. It goes up to like 200 or something. So this is unoptimized, but we'll play around with this and you'll see why in a second. So go ahead and hit apply on this, and immediately it will turn black. So, but if we take it and we move it, you'll see that the image is still underneath it. We have made a copy that is now an object. And let's take a look at the original here. I'm going to move these logos out. Let's compare these two side by side. You'll notice in the fine print here, we've got a lot of very sharp lines, especially like this O and this T, very thin, sharp lines. And now let's go and look at the same in our bitmap tracing. You'll notice we have very weak lines. We've got these rounded corners. This A looks kind of AI generated. It's all like goofy and blobby. Same with the N. We got like these curves and bends. We got these weird humps on the E. M is all over the place. This is what happened? You're making a face. Okay. This is what happens when you trace the bitmap with smoothing of corners. It smoothed the corners.
Yeah.
So now if we go to do the exact same thing, well, let's bump up our optimization to like, I don't know, middle of the road here. What is that? 3.4? I don't know. Just put the slider anywhere you feel like it. Let's do the same thing. Apply. You can see how much it changed. Look especially at this O here. We got this massive hump here, and we've got no such thing up here. This R is a lot more squiggly. So it's finding what it thinks are redundant nodes and removing them, but it changes our line work dramatically. Let's do it a third time, and let's remove all smoothing of corners. Let's knock this down to like 0.1. Okay, and let's apply it another time. And now you can see we don't have any smooth corners, but it also doesn't mean that we have a perfectly accurate drawing. This T, we have these nice crisp corners, but we also have these crooked, non-parallel lines. We go to this O, and it's like all over the place. I mean, it's like it's Comic Sans or something now. What is this? But notice all these are straight lines. They aren't curved lines. So with 3 different settings of the same command, we get 3 totally different O's here. And this one, our original, honestly is the nicest. But guess what? None of this really matters. Because, exactly, it's too tiny. This is going on the back of a shirt. And it's going to be, it's the tiny little subscript of one sponsor. And if you zoom out a little bit, it looks pretty good. I mean, you just got to zoom out a little bit, and it's perfectly fine. So this is the cutoff. When you're doing bitmap tracing, you got to be thinking about what the use is for. If we are doing something that requires a lot more precision, let's say we are taking an image of Scrappy, and we want to trace the bitmap of Scrappy so we can use Scrappy in the design somewhere. And this design is then going to be printed into a large banner and hung to promote the team. We're going to want a high level of precision for that Scrappy drawing. We don't even want to use bitmap tracing because there's going to be some funky lines in there. We're going to want to find an SVG of Scrappy right off the bat. And that's what this is. If we exported this Nova file, it would be an SVG. And that is a graphic that can be changed around. And it's a lossless file because it's math. It's computing the vectors that make up the image. So we could blow this Nova up to the size of the moon if we wanted to, and it would print perfectly fine. This would lose its definition probably if we just put it on a piece of 11 by 8.5 paper. It would become pixelated. So we've got one of our sponsor logos. Let's go ahead and go over to fill and stroke, and let's go over to fill, and I want this to be KSU yellow. So let's go back to our images, our design class files, and there's a color.png in there. Go ahead and put that in your file and just set it off to the side. This is the official KSU color palette, and we'll get into how I found this in a second. There are 2 yellows, a black and a gray. The lighter yellow is very, very faint difference, but the lighter yellow is what they use for like the KSU academic logo, and the dark yellow is the athletics. So if you see like a black and gold football helmet, they're using the darker yellow, but if you're seeing like the website, it's the lighter yellow. I prefer the darker yellow. I think it just looks better. So we're going to make this the athletic logo. So you're going to select our Nova Engineering that we just made, and you're going to come down to the dropper and the fill here. And you might need to give Inkscape permission to record your screen to do this. It depends on your operating system.
Like,
Yeah, but there's a noticeable difference. So now what?
So now select the dropper and then hover over to the yellow you want. And it should automatically make your cursor look like the dropper. Just select the yellow and you'll see there's a preview of the color it's selecting next to the dropper. We're going to take that, and now we have got a lovely yellow Nova logo. And go ahead and just click your element select tool to get out of the dropper so you don't dropper your background color. And we're going to set yellow Nova off to the side, and we're going to come back to him later. And we're going to set normal Nova off to the side and come back to him later. So now that was the Nova logo, and it had a transparent background and high definition. BGE, that white is not transparent. And so we don't want to get the white. We want to delete the white and keep the blue. Now, luckily, with tracing bitmap, it'll do that automatically. It will just find the prominent color, and it will select that. Now, this is where you want to be careful. We'll get into that later. So like Ernst, we have 3 colors here and black for the logo. Which color is it going to choose if it's finding the prominent color? We'll get into that later. But for BGE, we have 2 colors. It can already detect that the blue is the prominent one. And so we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to hit apply. Now, we used our exact same settings from the Nova logo. And you'll remember, we did not smooth the corners. So if we look at this G here, if we zoom in on this G, look at that. That is like, you know, an octagon here. We have a lot of straight lines making up this G. we kind of want this to be a little rounder. Let's go ahead and bump smoothing corners back up to 1. Because the BGE logo is going to be a pretty big logo on our shirt. And it'll just look better even at a glance. Like you can see, even zoomed out, you can tell that there's a lot of straight edges making up this G. It doesn't look very good. So we're going to apply a slightly different settings to do the same thing, but at a different logo. And you'll notice already that this G looks a lot nicer. It's a lot rounder of a G. And if we zoom in, you can see that. It's a very perfectly round G. And so, using 2 different settings, we got the same thing of different qualities for different cases. And we're going to go over here and do the exact same thing. We're going to fill in the BGE logo with the KSU gold. And now, we're very close to finishing up our sponsor t-shirt. So now the problem one, Ernst, because sometimes they'll use multiple colors. Ernst is the definition of a super problem logo. We've got a white background. They didn't remove it for us. We've got this black text. We've got a fairly complicated looking logo. And we've got this gradient color in the middle. It's just bad. It's just rough. So let's go over to a trace bitmap and let's just see what happens if we give it a go with what we've already been doing. You'll notice we immediately lose the gradient for the logo. And what's worse is we have these white speckles here. I look at this. It's trying to trace the line of the gradient, and it's just giving us these weird little Swiss cheese holes. Now, if we have a small enough Ernst logo, this might not be a big deal. But like, even when you zoom out, you can still see the little ghost of the white line. It's just, I don't like it. I want something different. We're going to delete this. Let's go to multicolor instead of single scan. And with this, you're going to have to play with the settings. You're just going to have to move things around and see what it does. I have got settings here that I'm just going to tell you, and it'll make a good logo. Speckles 2, smooth corners 1, optimize 3. Let me just double check that this is how I want it to be. No, that did not do it the way I thought it did. I thought I had saved my settings. I did not. Let's see what we got here. I want... if I do colors, what happens? No, not really. Trace. No. Auto trace, no. Right. This. Let's bump speckles up to what's our midpoint here? All right, we'll start with 200. Okay. I think that's good. And in fact, while I'm looking at it, the original one was fine also. No, it's not. Okay, so what I did is I bumped up speckles to 200. And what that means is if you'll look at our original here, we've got a lot of like these little ghost speckles around the edge of the logo. And that really just makes the whole thing look bad, even when you zoom out. Bumping up speckles to 200 removes all of that. But now we have these gaps in the gradient. But I don't really want that anyway. I want this to all be one color. In order to keep the logo true to what it was, I'm going to go to my layers. And what this has actually done is this created a complex object, put it all into a group, a folder. So if I go and I select my guy up here, it'll highlight this folder. Mine is called G29, but it'll just automatically create a name for yours. And if I open this folder, I'll see that I actually have multiple things making up my my logo here. And if I select this one, it's the top EC logo. The middle one is the bottom that says Ernst Concrete. And the third one is this middle gray. I'm going to delete the middle gray. And doesn't that look much better already? But the problem is now we've got Ernst Concrete where we've got these E's are filled in. And at this point, well, if I go down here, I've got Ernst Concrete pretty good down here. I like that. That's fine. And I have Ernst Concrete bad up here. I have the logo good down here, or logo bad down here, and the logo good up here. I could swap these two if I wanted. But I've decided I actually want it to be even better than that. And we're just going to recreate the Ernst logo. We already have the EC done. This is a pretty simple font. Let's just find a font, type out, it says Ernst Concrete. So let's go to our text tool. It's this little A down here. We're just going to type out Ernst. Oops, I misspelled Ernst. Ernst. And then we'll make another one that says concrete. I cannot spell. There we go. Ernst Concrete. We're going to select both of these by holding Shift and clicking on both of them. And we're going to remove the stroke by pressing 0. Now, I have this set to a different logo or a different typeface. Once you've typed that out, let me know. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, if you're having a hard time seeing, it might be because your font is tiny.
Yeah, mine was also too. Like click shift on both of them, and then like you can like alterate with the.
So if you'll notice, this is all in lowercase. So you can type it however you want, but if we're going to try and recreate it, we're going to put it in lowercase. So this comes the fun part, and that is looking at 8 billion fonts to try and find the right one. Eventually, you get a knack for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our fonts or our text ribbon and hit the text and font, and that's going to open up a new window, and you're going to see this massive list of fonts. So we need to take a look at what this is telling us so that we can narrow our search and not look through every single one of these 8 billion fonts by itself. So the first thing you're going to notice is you'll have a lot of fonts that are not in English, like this. Al Tariq, Al Bayan, PUA, New York, all of these that are not English words. Mostly what those are is that your machine comes preloaded with foreign typesets. So that if you find something online that is in Arabic, it will be able to load the font or at least load the language that it's in. Similarly, you can go to your computer settings, and if you say that you want to put your language as Arabic, it will be able to populate most of your programs with an Arabic font right off the bat. And that's what these fonts are for. This is not for your use. This is for your computer's use. So that if you want to see things in Arabic, it'll show them to you without you having to go download an Arabic font. That's pretty cool. Honestly, like, it seems like a weird way to do it, to just have this download into your font library permanently, because it makes things like this really irritating. But we now know that half of these fonts aren't for us. And if you click on them, let's just click on D1 Kufi. Let's see what that one is. If we set this one down here and we hit apply, you'll notice it's nothing too spectacular. It's not in Arabic. It's not in, Sanskrit. It's not in anything. It's in English. But if I go to, what was that other one? Al Tariq. If we apply it, nothing has changed. I chose those two at random, but I knew nothing would change because every single one of those foreign language files has English letters built into the font, and it will display the English letters. And almost always they have Arial or something as the basic font. Like they have your absolutely standard Microsoft default font, and then it has the Arabic glyphs. So if you're looking through fonts, you think you're going crazy because they are all literally the exact same. You can hold them over each other and there'll be zero difference. Maybe the letters will be spaced slightly different. They will be exactly the same. And that's what drives you insane about looking through fonts. But we know to just skip anything that sounds too foreign because it's Arial. So we're going to, I think, just personally, this looks kind of like Helvetica to me. Helvetica is the most popular font in the world. We'll go with Helvetica first and see if that's what Ernst used for their logo. So we're just going to scroll down to H and find Helvetica. Everybody should have Helvetica. There we go, Helvetica. Apply. That looks good enough to me. The things we're looking for when we're matching fonts is things like this C. See how it's closed? It almost makes a perfect circle, but that's a little bit of a cutout. And this Helvetica is doing almost the exact same thing. Another thing you're going to want to look for is like O's. Is the O a perfect circle or is it kind of squared off? This one's kind of squared off. It's not a perfect circle. But it's also a lot less thick than our Ernst font. So we're just going to go over and we're going to apply bold and see if that fixes it. Well, this is looking a whole lot more like the Ernst font. I think this is Helvetica. I think we found it. So we're going to call it Helvetica, and no one's going to be looking at it too closely. Ernst is not going to be looking to see if it's Helvetica or their own in-house Ernst Sanskrit font, you know, whatever that they've designed, whatever they've paid for to use for their logo. It looks good enough. We can call it Helvetica and move on.
There's something I found I think may be useful. It's what I did before. I put that image to ChatGPT and I asked what type of font it is, and then it will give me a few choice, and I can just try those.
If you can do that, that's awesome. Yeah, that would be very helpful. But like again, most of the time, after a little while, you kind of get a knack for it. There's really only like 4 fonts out there, and everyone just copies from each other. So if you just take a look at it, most of the time you can figure it out after a little bit. But yeah, definitely use ChatGPT if you can get it to tell you the font. That's really cool. Another thing, we're gonna break down a little bit of font lingo here, just that way we know. A lot of these will have something like sans in it, and that means that there are no serifs. So a serif font is something like Times New Roman. And it's got the little decorative twiddlies all over it. And those are to mimic an old-fashioned calligraphy pen. So if you were to write in an old-fashioned calligraphy pen, it would look a lot like Times New Roman. So Times New Roman, when it was designed as a typeface for actual like printing presses, it was designed to mimic a old style calligraphy pen because that was what things were written on in those days. So it was something to keep things familiar. If it says sans, that means it doesn't have that. It's what you can call a simple font. Most engineering companies are using a sans font because it looks clean, professional, and futuristic. Again, Helvetica is the most popular font in the world. If you start with Helvetica, you really cannot go wrong, especially because you also should have what's called Helvetica New downloaded. If you don't, you can go look for it. That gives you a lot of other options for Helvetica, including like a condensed font, ultra thin Helvetica. Most of the time, people are using something like that. They're using a riff on Helvetica, condensed Helvetica, thin Helvetica, bold Helvetica, italicized Helvetica. They are using Helvetica all over the place. Start with that, and then if that doesn't work, go to like Arial or something, another common font, or Futura. Futura was, did anyone play Skyrim? No one's played Skyrim? Anyway, all of the menus in Skyrim are Futura font. I think it might have also been for Fallout 3 they did Futura font. But like literally even in a game that's supposed to be set in, you know, a fantastical world of Skyrim, they will use Futura as all the menu fonts. Um, there's really only a small handful, and just everyone's copying the same ones because fonts are not protected by copyright law. So you can copy Futura exactly and sell it as Futura, and people will buy it from you. So we found the font. Now let's size it to what Ernst has here. And we're just going to go over to their logo. And what we can do is we can either type in a font size in our font here. Right now we have a font size of 77.9. That just pulled that out of the hat. I didn't tell it to do that. But we don't want that. We're going to instead take this, and if you scale a font with the select tool, it will change your font size automatically. So I'm just going to line up this E with the edge of the E in our font. Then we're going to go to this sideways arrow and hold Control to do the scaling thing we talked about earlier. And we're just going to put it until it basically roughly matches that. And we're going to do the same thing for the concrete. Hold Control. And there we go. Basically line it up. And then we're going to take this over to here. And we're going to line it up here. Then we're going to go to our layers again. We're going to find this guy. He's right here. And we're going to delete the text that we had generated earlier. So now we have the logo that we made and the text that we made. And we're going to take both of these texts and we're going to just take them and put them inside the folder of our logo here. So now if we click out of our layers menu and we just want to move this as a unit, it doesn't work because I didn't do it right. This is the thing with manipulating things into the layer space, is that sometimes it looks like it should work, but it doesn't. And we're just going to put that, my goodness, work for me. Click. There you go. Put that in the file. Put that in the file. Put it in the file. We are putting it in the file. Put it in the file. Put it in the file. It's not putting it in the file. Well, you can put it in the file and it'll work. Okay. If you hover it over the file icon instead of inside the file space, it works, apparently. Anyway, so now if we want to move this around, it moves as one unit. And if we want to recolor this to our yellow, it will recolor it as one unit. We're going to go to our fill. And if I just define the paint there, it's going to select something within the group. So that's why it automatically chose the yellow for me. But now we've got Ernst. And so now we have a lovely looking thank you sheet here, all in KSU gold. And if I want this to be bigger, I just scale it. And because everything in here is a vector, it scales flawlessly. So that's how you would design the back of the shirt. Once you get in the flow, you can knock out a back of a shirt very quickly. Really, it's just figuring out what the unique challenges of what your sponsors sent you. So like if Nova sent us a really nice image like how we have, cannot get rid of the A there. All right, if Nova sent us a really nice image like what we have, that's awesome. And if Earth sent us a really bad image, that's awesome too. We can figure out how to get around both of them. But there's not like a one-size-fits-all solution for converting images. You have to work with what you're given. And sometimes, every now and then, the sponsor will give you something really awful, and you just got to go to Google and find a better one.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what if they give you something like really pixelated?
So that happened. I could not find anything for Willett Engineering, which is one of our sponsors last year. And Willett Engineering's logo was just a font. It was just like Helvetica typed out Willett Engineering. So after looking and I could not find anything, I just went through and font matched Willett Engineering and retyped their logo for them. I could have given it to them as a gift, as a sponsor gift, and here's a higher res image for you. Give this to people instead. But yeah, that's just something you have to do. You have to. It's a lot of problem solving when it comes to what you're given for these things. But this right here, this is something very tangible. So y'all now have this skill. This is really cool to know. Okay, so now, last thing I want to talk about here is KSU brand guidelines. And we're going to also make a logo for a competition team, a theoretical competition team. And we're going to try and follow brand guidelines. So if you go to the team's chat, there are 2 links there. The first one is for KSU brand guidelines. We're going to look through those now. So this is all available on the website, which is awesome. This is not always the case, but it is right now. If you cannot find in the future stuff like this on the website, just contact whoever is in charge of marketing and ask to be sent whatever document they use to regulate this. There is a document to regulate things. KSU was nice enough to put it on the website for us. But that's not set in stone. That could change. And their brand identity guidelines can also change. So you want to stay, kind of appraised of this. We're going to go through this website a little bit, and we're not going to look too closely at like their brand philosophies and crap. We want to look at what applies to us. So you can read through this if you'd like, our story and mission and values, but we're not going to do that. Brand identity. So university logos and marks. Let's open up this tab real quick. So what this is doing is this is telling you the official definitions and the official names of each different university logo. So we've got the two logos here, the KSU ligature here, and this word mark. These are really awful files here. This is very pixelated, but so we know what we're talking about when we say the official logo. It's what these are, and we have the ligature or interlocking KS. They don't want you to use the official one on the email. This is also how it's constructed. This is very precise. We're not really going to need to know this, but this is like, the exact relative dimensions for the logo. And this is acceptable variants. So we have the full color where it's got the gray outline, the two color where it's no outline, then it's for when you're printing on black, when it's just black and white, and when it's another one for black and white, printing on black. So we have black and white printing on white, black and white printing on black. These are the official ways to edit the logo. And we're going to get into a bit more about that here. Then we have the how to change up and get more specific logos, like for the College of Engineering. Then we have, this is the important one. And there's like, College of Engineering and stuff like that. University seal. This is where we're getting into the hard rules. This is the university seal, and it is only for official documents. Now, in older college, like design culture stuff, they used to be a lot looser with the seal. You used to be able to get like, the seal on a sweatshirt and stuff like that. Especially like the old Southern Poly, Southern Tech, like in the 70s, they love putting the seal on things because it looked like an official real college. But now that KSU is like a real college, they're very stingy with the seal. You can't put the seal on anything. If you put the seal on anything, automatic rejection. They're not going to pass anything with the seal on it. So stay away from the seal. We don't really need it. It looks cool, but we're not using it. Athletic marks. This is for the football team. This logo with the owl on the Kennesaw State Owls for the football team. Scrappy's head for the football team. Wing Scrappy for the football team. We don't get to use those either. Spirit marks. This is what we're allowed to use. And this is very important. We have the winged Kennesaw. What's happening over there?
It's the same thing. I just saw the.
Yeah, we're allowed weird-legged Scrappy. Weird-legged Scrappy with the Kennesaw State Owls and the winged KS.
Yes, is a good one.
That's a good one,
Yeah.
yes. And if you'll notice, on literally everything I've designed, it has the winged logo. And yeah, that's got it too. So they followed the rules. What's interesting is I actually found a drawing where they had sketched out what they wanted the trailer to look like. And they had this cool combination of like owl talons and ASCE and like wings all over it. And they apparently gave that to KSU and was told in no uncertain terms what they were allowed to put on the trailer. And that wasn't it. And so what we got instead was what we have. And that is the winged KSU logo, the Spirit logo with ASCE logo. Very bare bones, not at all the cool owl themed trailer art that they had designed, but that's probably why they even put that on there, is because they were informed about what they're allowed to put on. This used to be the athletic logo, but they retired it, and now it's just for Spirit. What else we got here? Word marks. This we're not allowed to use, but this is like examples of other spirit stuff, like Scrappy's bucket list. And the alumni. We're not really allowed to use that either, but school spirit we're allowed to use. Now, oh, you don't even know the half of it. We're allowed to actually use a KSU logo, and that's actually insane. Georgia Tech, they weren't even allowed to call themselves the Georgia Tech Concrete Canoe Team last year. I don't know if that's changed, but they had to be the GT Concrete Canoe Team. They were not allowed to use Buzz or the Georgia Tech ligature or any Georgia Tech iconography. I think they were barely allowed to use the color yellow. Like, it is insane what they are not allowed. For all the crap KSU gives us, the fact that they give their student clubs the ability to use this logo and it's so similar to the normal KSU logo is actually pretty cool. They could make it to where we can only use Leg Scrappy. Leg Scrappy could be our only future. Like, we got to count our blessings at some point, and this is actually pretty cool. So we're gonna take this. Co-branding, we don't even care about that. Unacceptable variations. This is the important stuff here. So you can see it's like, don't put a shadow behind it, don't grayscale it, don't put it on a low contrast background, don't squish it. Furthermore, don't change up the KS at all. So like, sometimes you'll see in the bookstore violations of this, but it's okay when KSU does it. But just because you see it on KSU merch doesn't mean you're allowed to do it. So like, we can't make like an American flag KSU logo, or make something cool, or like, change up the colors in any way. We can't make a green KSU logo. Like we have free will. We have free will. I can physically paint a KSU logo green, but like, they're not going to give us a thumbs up for our design if we give them a green KSU logo. It's like all the green KSU logos on a Redbubble store, those are in violation of the brand identity. And this is where it becomes important to distinguish when it's important to follow brand identity. If we are to go like how we plan on doing and get t-shirts using our foundation funds, we have to go through the official channels of KSU. We have to talk to Louise. She is going to use her purchasing card to purchase the shirts for us. And we need to have a design approval form where the KSU Department of Design has approved our form or our design. And they have given us a thumbs up in writing. In order for them to do that, we have to follow all these rules. If we have a green KSU logo, they're going to reject it. If we have the seal, they're going to reject it. If we have this logo at all, they're going to reject it outside of very specific uses. So you'll remember on the Concrete Canoe shirts we got last year that had the sleeve printing, we had the full College of Engineering logo on there. We had this logo, and the subscript, it said Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering and Engineering Technology. That full logo had to be on there. The Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering and Engineering Technology. If I left off Engineering Technology, they wouldn't have approved it. If I had just called it Southern Polytechnic, they wouldn't have approved it. I'd have the full unaltered logo on there for them to approve it, because that's the only way we're allowed to use this logo, is as a specific college logo, College of Engineering logo in full, and it had to follow certain guidelines. And it was, where was it that we were allowed to do it? Not that one. Anyway, I forget. It's somewhere on here. It tells you how you can actually get your proper ways to do it. One of the ways you can do it is if you follow this black on white printing, white on black printing. You can actually turn this to be yellow. You can make this white color yellow, and that's good. And so I did this with Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering, and that was our sleeve printing. And if I had done anything else to it, they would have rejected it. But I also was sneaky, and I did get away with something. The official subscript is not that good of a font. It's a very thin font, and I was worried it wouldn't print right. So I typed it out in a different font that was better for printing and boosted it to like a bold color. a bold thickness. That way it printed better. And they did not look too closely at it. They just saw that it followed the official forms and they approved it. But it was a altered logo that they shouldn't have approved. But I did it, and it worked out fine. So there's also, I've got two altered versions of the logo in a different file we'll open in a second. One is extremely altered, and it's the one I put on the infographic where Southern Polytechnic is big and bold on there. That one they would catch, and you would not be able to use that one. But if I put all of it the same size and followed certain formatting rules, then they didn't catch it. So don't try and use that one, but it is better for printing stuff like our infographic, just because it kind of catches your eye a bit better. And then we've also got our color palette down here. And this is kind of funny. So this is also interesting. Another thing, if you want approval, if you have the KSU logo where it has a white border around the outside, they will also not approve that because our colors are not yellow, black, and white. They're yellow, black, and gray. And that's actually called slap rock gray. So that's kind of funny. And then it kind of breaks down after that because now we have Marietta blue and campus green and phantom purple. Well, no, these are our secondary colors. If you want to round out the palette for something you're doing, they want you to use this blue, this green, and this purple. Phantom purple. But like, why isn't it Marietta green? Why is it Marietta blue? What's blue about Marietta? Oh, it's pretty sad here. So then we have this weird orange called Leaning Man. I think that's a KSU campus thing.
Yeah.
And then we have Horned Owl Gray here, which is like a beige kind of thing. And Mountain Beige also. So these are they really only care about using these secondary colors if you're making like an official poster or something. We don't care about this. The big thing is that we just want, not the vibrant colors, we just want to make sure that we use gold, black, and gray when we're doing things. For the logo, when we're talking about the logo. So that means if you're getting something printed with the KSU logo, you just got to accept that one of your colors is going to be gray. So that works for us because we're Concrete Canoe and we like gray. So if you'll also remember on the t-shirt that we got last year, we had yellow and gray as our only colors and then a black t-shirt. So anywhere that was black, I just made that transparent so it would print black on the shirt, on the black shirt. And then the gray, I just had to eat that it was going to be gray. And the yellow, I just had to eat that was going to be yellow. So we only had two colors on the whole shirt, gray and gold, and then black rounded out everything else. That's how you design strategically for your purpose. The purpose was a shirt, specifically a black shirt that KSU had to approve of. And if I wanted to use the KSU winged logo, I needed to have gray and gold. So that was my color palette. And if we got any more colors, we had to pay extra. So I just had to design in gray and gold. Now, you don't have to use the KSU winged logo, but I did. I wanted to. But yeah, or you could use phantom purple. Typography. This is kind of fun. The official font of KSU for anything that isn't like athletics is Monsterrat, which is a nice font. It's very, very pleasant. They have a download for you here. I just like this font. If you want to use it, go for it. But we'll talk a little bit more about fonts in a second. And then we also have like logo application. They want you to have an area around any logo that has so like there's nothing inside this blue square. And then this is where you can talk about getting here it is, the yellow. If you want all yellow on black, it has to look like this. All of this information is on this website. You don't have to memorize it all, but it's important to sort of like get an idea where you can find this information and what you're allowed to use. And this is where this all comes together. Go over and open your file from your design class folder that's called Rejected Shirt Design. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Rejected Shirt Design. This is an old ASCE shirt that I found in the Google Drive one time that they tried to get approved so they could buy it, and it was rejected. And this was all in a big Word document where they were hashing out the design for it all, and they had different design iterations. And in the comments that were still there in the Word document, you could see that they had no idea why it was getting rejected. It kept getting rejected. Can you guys see why it's getting rejected?
Yeah, like.
The KSU American flag. This was an official merchandise piece from the bookstore. But what is the logo being used here? It's this wing scrappy with the Kennesaw State Owls. That is for the football team. That's not for us. They're trying to use the football team logo in their t-shirt. And it also doesn't have the boundary around it. Maybe it does. Maybe it does have the boundary around it. But that's why it was getting rejected. And they couldn't figure out why. So they had to drop this design. They wanted the KSU flag thing on the sleeve, but they didn't get it because they couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. Also, this established 1975 isn't correct. It's 76. Yeah. I mean, we could. If we put the wing KSU in here, it would work. But it would. But like, we could definitely do this. And then we can change it to Concrete Canoe. Yeah, so that's an idea. But if you do a flag, make sure you put it on the left sleeve. On the left sleeve. This is a nerd thing for me. It's always the left side because the flag needs to go in the direction of travel. So if you put it on this sleeve, you've got it going the wrong way. And what that means is the corner here, that's called the canton, this corner, that has to be going forwards always. Because imagine a flag pole. Imagine if you have an American flag on a flagpole, your canton, your corner is going to be on the flagpole. So now imagine you're like in a Jeep and you have the flag on the flagpole in the Jeep. Their flag's going to be pointed this way. The stripe's going to be pointing this way. The canton is going to be pointed this way. So that's how they determine direction of travel when it's a static image on something that's moving. That includes people and vehicles. So if you see like, the president's, Air Force One or a military vehicle and the flag is backwards, it's because it's going the direction of travel. So that's just a little nerd thing for me, but you always put a flag on the left sleeve because of it. Because you don't want to have to flip the logo around, just put on the left sleeve, it's easier. Anyway, that's a nerd thing for me. That is why it's important to have knowledge of the brand guidelines, because KSU will not tell you what's wrong with it. They'll just tell you it's wrong and you got to fix it. And maybe they'll link this website to you. Maybe they won't. They also won't tell you what part of this massive website you're ignoring. Is it that you don't have slap rock gray, but some other gray on there? They won't tell you that. No, they don't. They don't color check you. No. But if you don't know the problem, you're going to start going and figure out whether or not you got slap rock gray on there, and then they'll still reject you. So that's how you need to be mindful of the brand guidelines, because if you want to use foundation money, which is practically free money because we don't use it for anything else, for shirts, you got to follow these guidelines. So definitely use foundation money for shirts because it's practically free. We don't use it for anything else. Just money growing on trees there, not doing anything else. Get free shirts for it and use the brand guidelines to get that. All right, so to finish up here, we're going to actually design a logo. We're going to design a logo for a fictional team. And so I want you to go to the chat again, the Teams chat, and there will be another link for a GitHub of the SPSU visual identity. So there was not a lot on the actual Southern Poly design guidelines, and art assets from the Southern Poly days were not really saved. But this guy, who apparently worked in the branding stuff when it started closing down, he saved it all to his own personal GitHub. And we can download it. Now, you don't have to have all of the Southern Poly art assets. I actually provide those in another file if you would like to ever use the Sting, the Hornet for anything. But what is important is this font, SPSU Sans. I like this font a lot. There is a different font called DIN, And it is a font that was designed in like the 80s by German engineers to specifically um, be very readable on engineering drawings, as well as be very condensed so that they could put a lot of information in a very small space. It's really good for logos. It's very readable. It doesn't take up a lot of space. I like it a lot. That's DIN, and SPSU Sans is just DIN. Remember, there's no copyright law on fonts. They just copied DIN, but you have to pay for DIN. This is free. And you get black, bold, light, medium, regular, condensed, uncondensed, lots of variation. I'd highly recommend downloading these fonts and putting them in your library. I like these a lot. You can follow along without having to use this, but this is just a big recommendation for me. Download these fonts from this guy's GitHub. Very good stuff. So let's delete some of these pictures here and let's design a logo here. We're just going to use our drawing tools here. And when it comes to drawing a good logo, a lot of times you want to be looking at your ratios. What is the length to width ratio of what you're drawing? Are you using shapes that have a appealing look to them? Anything that looks appealing usually has a mathematical ratio to it. You know, it's a 2-to-1 length to width ratio. It's a 2-to-3 ratio. It's a 4-to-5 ratio. These kind of whole number ratios typically look the best. They just are appealing to the eye. This is like very old design stuff. This is like, you know, Plato figured this stuff out, that if you have a mathematical ratio in your architectural design or any design, it looks nicer than if you just wing it. And this is something that's guided design for a very, very long time. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use a lot of perfect circles and ratios and stuff. So we're going to make a logo for the nuclear powered vehicle team, a fictional team that maybe one day will exist. And so we're going to make a very simple model of an atom for the logo with the KSU logo in it.
Sounds like an insurance nightmare.
Yeah. But nuclear powered vehicle team, what's this? This is the Bohr model of the atom. So we're just going to let's start with one ellipse. And we're going to go up here into our length and width, and we're floating at 3 and 7. So we're just going to formalize that. We're going to call this 3, and we're going to call this 7. Hope we don't want to lock the ratio. We want to change the ratio. 3 and 7. Why not? That looks nice. And we'll lock that ratio. Now, and this is another thing. You're going to want to come up here in the top right corner, click this arrow. This is your snap tools. And you're going to want to set these to something that you'll like. Everyone's got different preferences on snap tools. I've got them set up the way I like them, but like maybe disable nodes, because that's going to snap to other objects within our drawing here. And we don't really want that right now. Bounding boxes, this is what that dotted line is around our ellipse. So that's the bounding box. We want to snap to the bounding box because we want our things to line up on the horizontal. And we're going to want to do the center of those bounding boxes because we want things to all be centered. Other points, do it how you like. Grid lines, that's if you can come up here to your scale and drag down a grid line. Not while I'm inside the box, but you can normally. Definitely snap to those grid lines. Those are fun, but we don't really need to worry about that right now. We won't design with grid lines. So right now we have an ellipse. Let's turn this into an orbital of the Bohr model of the atom, and we're going to turn the fill here to 0 transparency, and we're going to make the stroke 0.2 of an inch, and we're going to make that KSU yellow. So I can still see this guy over here. I'm going to make it from him. But if you have your color palette, just go over to the color palette. That looks nice. Now, let's copy this guy and paste him. And we are going to center him, then click on him so that we get these curved arrows around the box. These are your rotation tools. And we're going to rotate this guy. And again, same thing with mathematical ratios. Round number angles in degrees look nice. So we're going to put this guy like at 60 degrees or something. And we're going to hold control so that way he snaps to an angle. And down here, it'll tell you the angle. That says 60 degrees. But now that I'm looking at it, I think that's too much. We're going to bring him up a little bit to 45. 45 degrees. Now we're starting to get like a three-dimensional shape here. This is looking kind of cool. Now we're going to take this guy that we've already rotated. We're going to, sorry, I lost my drawing. We're going to copy him again. And while he's selected, we're going to come up here to this object flip horizontal. It's this pyramid shape in the top left. That's going to flip him horizontally. So we don't have to rotate another shape. We've already rotated it once. Just flip it and it looks good. And we're going to bring it back and see it's going to center on our bounding box again. And now we have a very classic Bohr model of the atom orbitals. But, you know, we're STEM here. We're nerds. We know a little bit more about the atom than the average bear. We know there needs to be a electron on each of these orbitals. So we're going to go to our circle tool again. And it says here, if we hold control, it'll keep it as a perfect circle. So we're going to, or hold alt, it'll keep it as a perfect circle. Or sorry, no, control as a perfect circle. And we're just going to make some perfect circles here. And we're going to want to put one circle per ellipse we've already made. We're going to put this guy like, oh, now we're doing to the bounding box. Let's see. We're just going to want to put this somewhere where it's like kind of centered. And we're going to fill it with a perfect circle fill. And then we're going to remove our stroke style from here. We want this to just be a solid shape. There we go. So that's one. And we want all these guys to be the exact same size too. And honestly, we could even make it so that this guy, again, ratios, we can make this guy a round number so that it works better with our ellipses because these guys are round numbers. So let's actually go up here and we're close to 0.75. Let's go ahead and just formalize that as 0.75. And because we have it locked, it's going to automatically update our ratio. So now we have a 0.75 circle for our electron. And this guy is just not centered. I want him to be more centered. There we go. Now he looks better. If you zoom in, it turns off automatically some of your snapping, especially if there's not a really convenient spot to snap. So you get a little bit more fine control. So I just did that by eye. I don't need to have that snap to the center line, but I could if I wanted to turn on the snap tool. But that's more trouble than it's worth. So now we're going to come back here, select this guy, and we're going to duplicate him, and we're going to put him on another orbital. Now, we know enough chemistry to know that that is one orbital, so there shouldn't be another one on there. We're going to put this guy on this orbital, just to balance it out. That way we've got not too many balls in one place. And we're going to paste another one, and we're going to put on the last orbital, and he's going to be like right here. There we go. Now we've got our classic Jimmy Neutron Bohr model of the atom. So this will be the basis of our design. So I want to turn all of this into one shape. It's all yellow. I just want to be able to click it and drag the whole thing at once. And I could group it, which is something you could do, or we could actually turn all of this into one shape. So what I'm going to do is if I try to do that now, this yellow ellipse is a stroke. It's not an object. And that's a pain. So we're going to go up here. We're going to select all of these guys by holding the shift key. And we're going to select all three of our ellipses. And we're going to go up to path. And we're going to click stroke to path. We're going to do that. And if we go to our layers, nothing's really changed here. But everything now is a folder inside our layers. If we go in here, you'll notice there's two objects seemingly on the same thing. This one that I've selected that's slightly bigger, that gets the yellow in the bounding box, is what we want. That's the shape of our ellipse. This one is the invisible interior of the ellipse that we turned to nothing fill. If we had kept it as something, we'd be able to see that now as separate. We're just going to go and delete that and right-click on our group and hit ungroup. So that's going to delete the folder and remove everything into our basic layers. we're just going to do that with the other two now. We're going to identify which one is the actual ellipse we want and which one is the interior box. That's the one we want. This is the nothing box. Ungroup. This is the one we want. That's the interior box. Ungroup. If you delete the wrong one, just hit Control Z and undo it. So now we have all of these as paths. And you'll notice it says path on here. So what we can do is we can select all of these inside our layer box. We have the balls, the electrons, we have the orbitals, the ellipses. We can go up to path again, and we can click union. Now these are your shape addition tools. We have union, difference, intersection, exclusion, division, cut paths. Each one of those does basically the same thing in different ways. So if I wanted to remove the space from around the balls in my orbitals, I could hit subtract or difference, and it would subtract that shape from the shape. If I wanted to have everything in here and just pick and choose what I wanted, I'd hit division. That would do literally everything. So in this case, it would have the ellipse subtracted by the ball space, but also the ellipse where the ellipse meets the ball space would also be included, and that would be a separate shape we can edit. And the ball would be split in half along where the ellipse intersects with it. So we'd have either side of those balls to work with. Every possible way you could combine or subtract these shapes would happen. Every possible way. So sometimes that's really cool and you can do some fun stuff with that. Sometimes if you're not really sure what to do with these commands, you can just hit divide and then pick up the pieces. But we're going to hit union because we just want this all to be one big shape, union. And it works. You can see all of the dotted lines and all the bounding boxes have gone away. And we can move this whole thing as one whole unit, and it only shows as one path inside our layer box. So we're just going to center that. Now let's put the KSU logo in the middle. And we're going to go File, New. Because we want to have a second document open here. And my settings are all messed up. That's why I did the template. But I got like this weird grid line speckle thing. I don't like this at all. But we're not going to spend too long in here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to go to File and Open. And we are going to go to our class folder here. And we are going to go to the Canoe Shirt Resource Set SVG. And this has everything I have ever drawn for Canoe in it. We're going to open that up. This, I call it the sticker sheet. And basically, if you want something, you peel it off the sticker sheet and you stick it on what you want in your own drawing. So, we got multiple Concrete Canoe Team logos here. You can choose one of them. We got, Kennesaw and Marietta in different fonts. We got the athletic font. This one, they don't give you an actual font file for. I just drew these and created this. So this is the athletic font for ASCE, Concrete Canoe, Kennesaw State, all of that in the actual football team font. We got the old ASCE logo from the 70s where it's almost like the NASA. They had this up until 2008. So this is the main ASCE logo. Anything you could possibly want, including our official logos, and this one, which is wrong because it's white instead of gray. And the color palette and Scrappy. We're not allowed to use this Scrappy, but he's still here because it's fun. And this special Scrappy I made where his talons are closed around the oar. That one was a hard one to make, but we got him. So we're going to take the athletic logo because we all know we're not allowed to use the other logos. So, oh, I see. Another thing you're going to need to do, because we imported this all as one file, this is in its own layer. So we're going to open up our layers again. And we're going to go over here to this layer 1, and we're just going to hit ungroup because we don't need all that. We want all of these separate. We need to peel the stickers. So we've ungrouped it. Now we have everything separate. You can see that. And we're just going to box select the winged logo. We're going to Command C, copy him, and Command V, paste him. We're going to put him right there. And we'll work on this so it looks a little bit nicer. But if we wanted anything else we could just take it from here. I've got old SPSU assets. This is, a bunch of old stuff. Different canoes if you want to have a canoe for various things. Different crossed oar elements. ASCE official logos. Pretty much anything you could want is in here. It's very faint in this file, but this is a sketch of the Ghost technical drawing right here. So this is very easy to get. Just go to your technical drawing CAD file and hit print to PDF, and then use that trace bitmap thing that we did earlier, and you can get this with only a little bit of issue. You could definitely get the main form of it, but you might have to re-annotate it yourself using the text feature. But yeah, that's always really fun. Like, I did that for this shirt. I got the technical drawing Nicole did. I put that on this shirt. I like that a lot. I love it when we have technical stuff on our shirts and designs. But this one's of the Ghost if you ever want to just have one ready to go. And you don't have to actually worry about all this. If it looks close enough, it looks close enough, So that's enough out of this file. We also have the brick pattern if you ever want to have anything else look brick. And this like wallpaper background that you could tile. And it would have this nice concrete canoe background. And of course, a hexagon grid. So lots of useful tools in here. You can make endless combinations from the stuff you find in here. But we're just going to use the one winged logo we've already pasted into our drawing. So we're just going to close this down, and it's going to ask us to save. We're going to say close without saving because we don't really care about this. We just wanted that winged logo. So now we're back in our design, and we are going to want to make this look a little bit nicer. I think we should lock our ratio and put this guy small in the middle here. But he's not snapping to the middle because this guy is off center. Hold on. There we go. Oh, no, that didn't work. Is our bounding box just wrong? No, bounding box is fine. That's centered. Okay. So there we go. Now we've got the winged logo in here. I think if he's a little lower, he'd look a little nicer. And so now we want this to print well. All right, now you can see we've got the non-athletic yellow on this KSU. Very subtle change, but you can kind of see it when they're side by side. We're going to change that yellow. We're going to say this is going to print on a black t-shirt. So we're going to want to turn this black into nothing. And we're going to say that we don't want this gray. So we're going to make it the yellow outline that we saw that was an acceptable variant of this logo. So we're going to do all of that to this guy that's called Spirit Logo, which is nice that he's labeled for us. That one looks like it's the yellows, maybe. Let's see what we got here. No, they're all one unit now. They're all the same color. This is the black file. So this right here is our black. We're going to delete that. We don't want the black. We want it. And this, I believe, is our yellow, or our gray. So we can, yeah, he's gray. We're just going to drop her yellow. And we're going to go back to layers. And is this guy our yellows? No, that's not even in it. This guy is our yellows. And we can just select the entire group. We can go to our fill properties and we can just do that and it'll do everything in the group. So because of this yellow is not all together, it's we've got these big gaps in where there's yellow. They have it as a group, not as a single object. It is possible to combine things that aren't connected into one object, but they didn't do that here, and we're not going to bother with that right now. That's just a whole different thing we don't need to worry about. So now we've got our KSU logo, and we've got our orbitals, but this could look pretty cool. We can sort of preview what it would look like on a black shirt by just dragging it over to our dark background. And that looks pretty sick. That looks pretty cool. But we want some more layers on here because that just looks a bit more professional. And we're going to take this and we're going to bring it back here. And I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. Hold Control and shrink it a little bit because we're going to put some text on here. Oop, nice and centered. But first, we're going to make layers of our orbitals here. So we want like a nice boundary around it. So we're going to take this And we are going to go to our stroke style, and we're going to call it 0.1. We'll start with that. And our stroke paint is going to be black. We'll start with black just so we can see it better. Okay, that's looking pretty sharp. But I think I want it slightly thicker than that. Let's go with 0.2. That's too thick. Let's go with 0.15. 0.15. There we go. That's nice. Okay, so that is our stroke. And do we have anything else here? No. Okay. Okay. And now we're going to go over to our layers again. And we're going to find our path here, which is this one. And we're going to go back to path and hit stroke to path. And this is going to do exactly what it did last time. It's going to create an object of our black and our object of our yellow as separate things. So we're going to go and we're going to ungroup this. We want both of these this time. And now we're going to go to our black, which is this one. And we're going to put a stroke on the black. So we're putting strokes on strokes at this point. We're creating these concentric lines, like grade lines almost. We're going to come back to our fill and stroke. We're going to go stroke paints undefined. Just select one of the boxes. I should have told you that before. And we're going to make this color gold. And it already filled in for us. That's pretty nice. We're going to make sure that's the yellow we want. Why are we not seeing it? Stroke style 0.1. Oh, our ellipse is all funky up here. That's weird. 0.15. Why are we not doing what we need to do here? 0.15. Enter. Oh, it's reading as black, not yellow. That's why. Okay. Boop. Turn that yellow. Okay. Well, what is happening? Something's going wrong. This.
Michael Williams. He said one, but he could have.
Okay, something's going wrong here. Let's figure out what's happening. Why is it going wrong? Okay, that's what we want. Stroke style, 1/2 inch. Is it that our style is wrong? Let's turn it green, see what that does for us. What is our fill looking like? Okay, there's where our fill is going. Oh, I see.
Ew. I think I'm getting the hang of it.
Am I editing the wrong one? I'm getting lost here. Give me a second. Phantom purple. Let's hide this guy.
Oh, my phone.
What is that? Makes her weird. And they said they have the.
People want us to clean the mixer
before they all use.
Okay, this is definitely what I want it to be.
You also got
Stroke should be.
this.
That's rust dissolver, isn't it?
Yeah, there's.
Oh, my God. I'm talking about concrete.
Why are we not? That should be fill.
Really?
Like a jelly. Yeah. I got a lot of rust. I need to try this. I need to taste test.
Wait.
See if it's really rough.
Kind of rusty right now, man.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. The water up front works.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Bet.
Okay, I'm not really sure what happened there, but I was just misreading everything. So let's turn that back on. And now it's looking like how we want it to. So we've got black and then a yellow outline. So we want this to be transparent. We want this to not exist, this black. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here and we're going to press, let's see, this one. Is this the one that we're working on? If we go 0 here, what does that do? Okay, that's what we want to keep. Okay, so figure out which one your line is on these layers. And we're going to go back to path and hit stroke path again. We're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Ungroup. Okay. And now we want this guy because he's our one that's black. Nope, that's our yellow. We want this guy who's the one that's black. Nope. That one just has stroke. What? Oh, this one's not even anything. This one. That's. All right, where's our black one? We're just going to select the black one here. What if we turn fill to 0? Okay. That one we want.
I thought we were doing this. Yeah, why would you go do it here?
This one.
Why would you do it here? Because why not? Why not?
What's the problem? You're moving that savings.
This thing I figured. Yeah, but don't have to
Okay.
concrete on. Are you hearing yourself?
Thanks.
Then we can wait up on the
All right, there we go. Found it. This is the one we want. Okay, so we want this guy, which is our black line. We want this one to subtract the yellow line behind it, or difference with the yellow line behind it. We go to layers. We have this guy, and he is our black line. And we have this guy, and he's our outermost yellow line. So you can quickly check those by using this eyeball feature, which hides your layers. You're going to select both of them. Now, the black line is on top of the yellow line, and that is important for our difference function. We're going to go up here to path. We're going to hit difference. And now you see we have no black line and only the yellow line around our main yellow line. Y'all need some help? They're good. Okay. And now we're just going to make our KSU guy a little bit smaller here because he's kind of bumping up against the edges. And remember, we got to have that buffer. So now we have KSU and we have our atom. Honestly, we could probably do some more with this to make it look a little bit nicer. But this is good for now. We have a really cool athletic bar around our Bohr model of the atom. We have our orbitals. We have our electrons. And so now we want to add some text. And I want to add text going around it in a circle that says Kennesaw State University Nuclear Powered Vehicle. So first, we're going to make a circle. We're going to hold control as we draw it, so it makes a perfect circle. Okay. And we're going to put it over everything here, but we can't see it because it's a solid shape. So again, go to your fill. For your fill, make it 0. For your stroke, make it, 0.2 or something. Nothing crazy. And we're going to want this to just barely hug the inside of our model of the atom. So we're just going to keep shrinking and readjusting here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think that's a nice healthy margin here. So now we have our line going around the atom, and I want this to say Kennesaw State University. So I can go to my text function. I'm just going to tap, so that way I don't have to make a box for it. I'm just going to hit the caps lock and do Kennesaw State University. There it is, Kennesaw State University. And again, it's kind of weird looking, so we're going to go back to fill and stroke, put fill at 100 transparency so we can see it, and put our stroke at 0. And I want this to be yellow as well. I want this to be KSU yellow. Notice how we're designing with one color here, because this way we would have the cheapest possible print. And now we're going to take this, and I'm going to go to my text bar, and I already know that this is going to be a really big font when we're going around this here. So I'm just going to go and knock this down to like 40 just to start with and hit apply. I got to move my box and hit apply. Okay, that looks a bit more respectable. Currently, I am in Helvetica. We're going to stay in Helvetica. I'm going to go down to Helvetica New. No, we're going to stay in Helvetica. Helvetica is fine. Everyone loves Helvetica. Select your circle and your text. And then you're going to go up to text and hit put on path. And that puts it on the path for you. Now, we don't really want it like this. We want it to be on the top. So you take it and you select it and you hold control and you get your rotation tools and you rotate it 90 degrees. And that is your text. And you can just recenter it back on there. Now, we don't really want this circle because now it's blocking our letters. We're going to go to our circle. It keeps the path. If we delete the path, it deletes our text, or it deletes our text command. So we're going to want to go back to fill and stroke and just set this guy to transparent on all things. And now he's gone. We don't have to worry about him anymore. But we're going to bring him back for just a second. Control Z. Nope, didn't Control Z it. Where are you? Where'd you go? Where is he? Okay, I've lost him. That's okay. We don't need him. I was going to bring him back, but it's okay. We don't really need it. And we're going to make another circle. And we want the text to be on the inside of the circle this time. So if we had the same circle, and we have the text on the outside of the circle, and we flip it to be on the inside so that it reads going this way, it would look weird because it would be off a little bit. It would be using the circle as a center line, and it would be projecting from two different directions. So we need our circle to be bigger. We're going to use the exact same font, and that's important. We're going to make our circle again. We're going to make the innards transparent again. Transparent size. Come on, be transparent. Oh, this is the stroke. Hold on. Stroke 100, so we can see it. Stroke style 0.1, so we can see it. Fill 0, so we don't see it. Okay, nice. And we're going to want this to be perfectly smaller, or sorry, just the same size as the topper limit of our Kennesaw State University text here. So we're going to hold control. We're going to come down to this arrow here. We're just going to keep dragging it in until we're just barely touching Kennesaw State University when we center it. Come on, center. Yeah, that's centered. So we're barely touching Kennesaw State University with this circle. So now we're going to write in our text tool, same font style, same font size, nuclear powered vehicle team. Oh, I didn't caps lock it. Tag them. Okay, let's delete all that. Delete, caps lock, nuclear powered vehicle team. And we're going to make the fill 100 transparency, and we're going to make the stroke 0 transparency. Here we go. And same thing, we're going to select our text and select our circle, and we're going to go to text and put on path. Now notice, it puts it on the wrong direction. We wanted it the other way. So we're just going to come up here to our flip horizontally, and it puts it on the inside of the circle. As easy as that. But I've selected both, so hold on, I want to hit undo there because I did it a little bit wrong. You just select your circle and you flip it. Just select the circle. So that flips the path direction of your circle, and your text follows the path direction. So now we're going to do the same thing, select our text until we get the rotation tools, hold control, and rotate it 90 degrees. And then we go over here and we center it. And then we go to our circle, and we are going to make him perfectly transparent so we don't see him. Now, we have a problem. The letters are too spaced out, so they're overlapping. So what we're going to do is this is called the kernel of the text. It's the horizontal spacing between the letters. We're going to reduce that for both of these until it works. We're going to start with this one because as you can see, the letters are a lot more spread out on the top than they are the bottom. When you have this bottom text in a crescent, it really squishes them together. We want them, so this one has a lot less room to squish than this one does. So we're going to select our top. And when we select our text tool, up in the top right, once we've selected our text tool and selected our text, you will notice we've got new text tools in the top right. We're going to go to these two A's. This is your text options, essentially. And on the far left here, this, if you hover over, is the horizontal spacing between letters. We are just going to reduce this. Right now I have it at 3. Your default is 0. So we're going to start with 1 and see what that does for us. And it's not enough. So we're going to go down to 0 and see what that does. And it's not enough. We can go further. We can go -1. And that technically is enough. You can see we can read everything, but it's a little hard to know when one starts and the other stops. So we're going to select nuclear powered vehicle, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Go to text tools. All right, now we're also at 3. We're going to go to 2 and see what that does. Okay, I like that. I think that works. We actually could even hit Control and make this guy a little bit bigger because he is kind of just off sides here. Okay, that gives us a little more space. So now this is a lot more legible, but personally, I would like it to be squished enough that I could put like a dot or something in between the text. That way it's a little easier to separate them. But this is perfectly reasonable. But we're going to go one more time to our above, and we're going to make that -3 and see how much that does. Hey, that's perfectly readable. And we have a nice space here. And we can go and we can put a little circle right here, right there. Control. Hit shift in other programs, so sometimes I'll hit shift on accident. And we're just going to make this that it's kind of in between the two. And we're going to just copy him and do the same thing on the other side. It should. Yeah, it looks nice. Here we go. And so that is a lovely logo for a competition team. We can put that on a shirt. That's a one-color shirt. Did you follow along? I should have been keeping on. What? Not John. Make sure you
The outline, but I finally figured it out.
Oh, you got it?
I got it after
Forever.
forever.
It looks nice.
But like I lost a lot, but like it's okay because like I kept watching and I was just like, okay.
Yeah, that one for the all the past big names, the same thing also threw me.
Yeah.
So like it's a little rough.
I forgot to like union. That was all. And I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, oh, it was right here. Yeah.
And so okay.
Also have to translate it in my head. So
Yeah, that was what I was a little bit worried about with being the Portuguese, is like it's these tools have specific names and I don't know how to if they'll be the exact same.
mostly I was just like really scared and I would see where you clicked. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, okay, what
So,
is it?
Do you want me to go back over like the text stuff, like how to
It's
flip
okay.
the text?
I can
Okay.
put the text stuff down.
And frankly, I like your design a little bit better because it has more room in the middle for the KSU logo. This is not a lot of space. So what I would actually do is I would repeat that entire outline and pathing process again for the KSU logo and make it like this big. And then just wherever it intersects, I would delete it and give a little bit of a buffer.
Okay.
So you would get like an understood. So like that would be ideal. So I can kind of like get a bit of an idea of that by going here and going to stroke and making that 100 and making that white. We'll make that like 0.2 and make that white. And you kind of get a preview of what that would look like. Not very good. Hold on. Because it needs to be that. Still not particularly good. Something like this, you can kind of get an idea of how that would look, but it's these stroke style tabs down here. They're all a little bit different and they're not quite what I'm looking for right now. But yeah, you can kind of get an idea of how it would look with the negative space that I would apply to it. In fact, what I could do is I could then copy paste this guy, put him back on top, and then remove the stroke from this guy. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Yeah. Okay. So you can kind of get an idea. This is sort of what it would look like. So that's actually a really useful tool, is being able to arrange things using colors and layers. See if you like it, and then do it the hard way with the complex pathing. The pathing stuff that I did, that honestly threw me for a bit of a loop because like it kept rearranging things in my layer space and it was all the same name. I would honestly just start renaming things because that's how you get around that. Is you name as you go along in your layer space, and you just go to layers and you can double click it, and that's dot. I'll just call it dot one. So I know that's the dot when I'm looking in my layer space. I know exactly what it is. That's like the good way of doing it, you know, the prim and proper way. And it's nicer in the long run when you're trying to do stuff like that. But you know, who has time for that? Who's gonna really do that? I don't do it. Another thing that I noticed during it, I have this little lip here in my thing. What that means is I have two nodes that are not closed. And I could pretty easily go in here in my node view, and I could edit that and delete that when I was, you know, doing everything. Right now I was reading the text instead. Let's go down to this path. This path? What is all this path? Where's all this? Oh, that's that one. We don't need that guy. Is this the path? Yes, this is the path. Okay. If I select him and then select this nodes tool here, you can see exactly what's happening. Well, there we go. You can see we've got this disjoint along the center line that's creating these nodes here. And if I had caught that earlier, I could have gone back to my ellipse as a single center line piece and deleted one of the two nodes that it lined up perfectly, and then gone about my business. If I were the nuclear powered vehicle team, I go, crap, and then have to redo all of it. But no one's the nuclear powered vehicle team, so I'm not going to bother fixing it. But yeah, sometimes when you do things like union to your shapes, there will be something like that. A redundant node will be created, and it'll be a pixel different from the one in front of it. And it'll create these sharp, jagged edges. And it's annoying, and it's hard to catch sometimes, but it's just how the program works. That's probably the only time that's really frustrating, because in all other cases, pretty robust. So yeah, there we go. We've created a logo. We know how to make it so that Casey will approve it. This little buffer all around it is very important. You know, you got to have that buffer. This will print lovely black on yellow or yellow on black. We know how to make the t-shirts. Let me check my file, make sure I didn't forget anything. No, we covered everything. Okay, so 2 hours of recording, and I think we got it all. Do you have any questions at all?
For now.
Okay. If you have anything, let me know. The reason why we're using Inkscape, though, and not the program that I know better, Graphic, is because Inkscape is like the gold standard for graphic design. It is free. Y'all are able to download it in this shop. Photoshop's for photos. This is for graphic design. Oh, actually, Adobe Illustrator is the gold standard, but you have to pay for that one. This is the free one that's really good. You can go on Google and do absolutely Google anything at all for Inkscape, and you will find at least 5 people telling you how to do it. It's extremely easy to problem solve with it. I learned Graphic, which is a Mac exclusive program, because I had it already. It cost some money, but someone else had already purchased it, and I just re-downloaded it from their account. And I didn't know about Inkscape. In fact, Inkscape was kind of like not as good back then. So I learned the wrong program, because if you type in Graphic You're not getting information on the Mac exclusive vector program. You are just getting graphics in general, and that's really difficult. But because Inkscape is its own word, it's a lot easier to find help, and a lot more people use it. So it's very easy to get help for it. So that's the reason why I wanted to make sure y'all knew that. It's free, it's approachable, easy to troubleshoot. You don't get Illustrator. Some of the computers in the library do have Illustrator on them, but what we get as students in our Adobe bundle does not actually include Illustrator. Even if it did, I would not recommend y'all use it because anything you learn on Illustrator, you have to pay for once you stop being a student. If you ever want to do a little graphic design for like a t-shirt, if you're like, involved in a charity organization and they need t-shirts for like a 5K they're doing, you can volunteer to make that for them very easily if you know a little bit about Inkscape. And that is a skill that's very useful to have across your entire life. So knowing a program like Inkscape is good. The only thing, and this is definitely something that you're gonna have to think about, Nicole, the hardest part about getting help for Inkscape is knowing what to ask. I can type how to difference of two paths Inkscape and get good videos for that. But if I have how to take one shape away from another shape in Inkscape, that's going to be a lot harder to find. So you might want to think about setting your preferences in Inkscape to English. But you can do that pretty easily. What I would do is I would delete everything you've done in our template file here, save this template, and then go over to your file and document preferences and document properties. And you can change your display language in here. So this is where I did everything. But having a nice template to start off with is very helpful, especially because this is, letter space, off-white, dark background. It's pretty handy. So I think that's going to conclude it here. Let me just figure out how to turn the thing off. Oh, well, it was there a second ago. You are very welcome. And if you have any more questions about graphic design, Inkscape, just let me know and I'll try and help you out as best I can. Okay, is it still recording? It is. How do I stop recording? There we go.